Hello, fine that you're watching. I'm here, Marcel de Graaff, member of the European Parliament for Democracy from the Netherlands. And I have two guests with me. One is Bernhard Zimniok, who is from AFD, Alternative für Deutschland, from Germany, also member of the European Parliament. And Gerolf Annemans, a Flemish member of the European Parliament for the party called Vlaams Belang. I'm very happy to have you here because we're going to talk about migration, and especially illegal migration, because I've seen a lot of things last weeks, which seems to culminate from a very long period of time that we're accepting and seeing an influx of thousands, hundred thousands, millions of migrants over the last decades. I start with you, Bernhard, if you don't mind, because what came up like 2 weeks ago was that the German government is actually funding NGOs who have ships, who rent ships, to go in the Mediterranean to the coast of Libya, pick up migrants and bring them to Lampedusa, which seems like facilitating human trafficking.
Yes.
What's your view? What's happening here?
Well, absolutely crazy situation. We are funding these ships, these rescue ships, the so-called rescue ships, on annual basis for €2 million a year till the year 2026. So they are safe in their financing and they can continue to rescue people. And this will attract a lot of people in Africa or elsewhere to use this way, to take this opportunity to come to Europe. And we are facing, especially in Germany, a tremendous amount of problems already. So we are, every month, 1,000 Afghans are imported, legally wise, by plane. We are facing a huge amount of problems in Germany, starting from the housing. We are planning 400,000 houses or apartments a year on annual basis, so there is no limit. But we are creating only 290,000 a year. That means we have a lack. We have a lot of influx, as you already mentioned, and these people, they are now looking for housing. This means the housing market, the pricing going tremendous up. People are not happy about this, and we are creating a lot of more problems. So I think this was a crazy idea from our government, and we have to topple this idea immediately. Whenever we are in power, we have to erase this idea immediately.
Yes, but there must be a reason. I mean, all these problems are known to the government. We see the same thing in other European countries, in the Netherlands, where we cannot build more houses because of the nitrogen problems. So yes, these housing problems with migrants are everywhere, I guess also in Belgium. And still they're letting these people in.
Yes.
So basically I think that's because they're hard workers who are helping the German economy, isn't it?
Definitely not. So if you have a view on the Syrians, they are coming 2015-16 in masses. More than 55% of these group, they are not in any work involved. They are still living and depending on government subsidy money. And only a quarter of these people, they are working, but in lower jobs. That means they don't bring too much to our economy.
That's where the engineers.
Yes, rocket engineers, heart surgery, everything what we're expecting, but the reality is quite different. And I know from my experience from the Middle East, I have been there for a couple of years, and in the age of 40 or 45, it is very difficult to attract an Arab to continue to work to 67, as the Germans are doing. So they are normally 45, they quit their job and relax. So now they can relax in Germany. I think it's a good solution. I would do so if I am a Syrian, definitely.
Yes, of course. But what you're basically saying is we have a problem with integration. There's always been a talk about the aging population of EU member states. And because of that, we would be in need of a younger workforce, being the migrants. Now, they're not integrating, and it's even getting worse. Because, Gerolf, we saw in Brussels just a few days ago that a migrant actually killed 2 Swedish people in broad daylight. So, integration, what do you think?
Well, of course, things degraded very much after Madame Merkel in 2015 said, "Wir schaffen das, you can all come, we'll deal with it." And what we see now in Lampedusa and in Brussels and here in Strasbourg is that we should go back to the beginning of all this. The beginning of all this was the Commission that announced that 50 million people should be hosted from all over the world, and especially from Muslim countries, where there is a big need to come to the welfare states here in the Western Europe. So the Commission started the process that has to do with so-called replacement. We are old, we are going to die, and we will be replaced by young people from all over the world. And this policy has become the official policy of this European Union in this building. And we can't stop them for the moment. The people have to stop these. And if we don't stop them, they will go on with it. So they will host 50 million migrants from Muslim countries, and they will continue to do so. For instance, this afternoon, we had a debate on the Migration Pact. So the Commission wants now, before the end of the year, to push us through this Migration Pact process to prevent the next elections from being able to turn it back. And so the Migration Pact is more migrants. Those who are coming illegal, we will legalize them. We will legalize the illegal ways of coming to Europe, and we will promote migration as much as we can. That's more or less the message. And those countries who didn't take migrants up till now will get the migrants that the countries that don't want or are unable to take them still in will refuse. And so there will be there's a spreading plan. So the promotion and the turbo on migration will will be even worse than before. So what we have to do is to stop this European Union, this European Commission, and to stop the majority that is at stake here in the European Parliament. That's why we have to join all the forces from the right side, convince the EPP to stop this game of the left wings, because left wings want this migration for ideological reasons. They hate national identity, they hate national member states, and they use the European Union, which was conceived as a cooperation of European states. They misuse this cooperation to create a centralized state without national identity. So it's a huge game. And if a Lampedusa boat tourist who was brought either by the German subsidies or by himself to Italy, who went from Italy to Sweden, and in the end came back to Belgium, where it is nice, where you can come whatever you do, and if you are not allowed to stay, you can stay nevertheless. That's Belgium. That's the framework of Belgian migration policy, which is not a policy, it's a failure. And the Belgian population is manipulated, the Flemish majority is manipulated by French-speaking people who act in the name of Macron, who act in the name of those who manage here the migration issue. So we are in bad hands, and we've got to liberate ourselves. And the game is high level, because if this continues, our children will become will come into dangerous positions.
As a minority.
They will be a minority surrounded by violent people that hate them. And we cannot do this to our children, continue this. We have to have the battles here in this European Union to stop this madness.
But this European project, that was all about wealth, about creating prosperity.
It is derived from the Treaty of Maastricht in your country. They stopped cooperating as member states with their independence and national identity, and they started creating a centralized state that could impose on the member states policies that their people didn't want. And so the Treaty of Maastricht created something else, not European cooperation anymore, but a centralized state with as much as possible centralized government, a president in the council who manipulates the member states, a president of the commission who manipulates the political agenda, and a European Parliament that is plunged all over into madness.
So what you're basically already describing is a future where the original population of EU member states become second-class civilians.
We're not that far yet. My message is rather we can still save Europe. If we wake up, that's what I said yesterday during the commemoration of the Brussels attacks. Please wake up, it's not too late. We have a positive message because next year, 2024, we are presenting ourselves to the people, asking them to vote for us, and our message should not be it's too late, it's madness, we will be a minority. Our message is, on the contrary, it is still not too late to change things. And please replace this commission, strip them from their majority, abolish their migration pact, and go on with a Europe like our fathers and our mothers gave to us, a Europe with national identities and a European civilization that is worth the name. If we continue, we will have guys like the one who killed Swedish because of them being Swedish, like Jews are already killed because them being Jews. We will end up in a society like that, and that's not what we wanted. That's not what we got from our parents.
Yes, well, we see in the Netherlands that already the original Dutch people are second class when you look from a government perspective, because when it comes to housing, and I don't know how it's in Germany, but in the Netherlands it's when it comes to housing, migrants have priority, and migrants get free money, a monthly allowance, although they're not working. So what you see is that already when it comes to these primary necessities of life, that the Dutch people already is being treated as second-class.
That's the consequence of what happens here. This European Union that pushes through migration as a plan that should lead to 50 million new migrants from all over the world here in Western Europe. And so there is a push, an ideological and also a political push coming from the European Union. And so if the Dutch government under Prime Minister Rutte's leadership goes into that path, of course he has to promote migrants in things like housing, etc., things that the government serves to the people. And the people inevitably have to be, in the first place, migrants, because migrants have to be pushed by the European Union, and the European concept of bringing migrants to Europe have to be pushed also by member states. So the member states have to liberate themselves, in my scheme.
Because I think the same is true in Germany, and we have had these attacks in Brussels. We see attacks of Muslim people now on the rise because of of this conflict in Gaza and Israel. How about the security in Germany? And is it allowed to speak about it?
Well, allowed is difficult. You are suppressed. You know, if there's a problem, I'm used as an engineer. If there's a problem, I have to address exactly the problem and look for a real solution to whatever, to solve a problem. This is well, we have a moral aspect. We have a moral power which not allowed to make some proposals concerning a solution. So we promoting this exactly what the migrants are expecting in Germany: free housing, money, and everything free. So it's a paradise, you know. For the German citizen, we are coming really in the situation that we are now second-class citizens. in Germany because of this situation, because also if there's a problem to compete with one flat or a house, the migrant will be, of course, number one. The main thing is people are now aware of what's happened. They know quite well that 80% they think it is enough. And we made a lot of surveys about this, but the government do not care. Government goes straight ahead. We have to follow this moral path, you know. We have to rescue the rest of the world. We are responsible for the rest of the world. And nobody cares about a citizen. And now we have the situation that we are planning, or there are some ideas from Ministry of Interior, to extend the voting for the local bodies to the migrants after a stay of 6 months. Can you imagine? There are some villages or small towns, they have now a huge amount of migrants, so a village of 1,000, they get 600 migrants or 500, they change completely the political landscape. They can vote exactly for the things they are expecting, and the Germans have just here to pay. But these are the plans, and I think they are so crazy they will do so. And I'm not so optimistic, dear colleague. I'm not so optimistic that we can convince our people here in the parliament to change this path. I am working now for 4 years in this topic, and I'm really desperate to see what they're saying in Germany. We have to fight, we have to do. And here, if you see the voting lists, exactly the people, they are crying, doing the opposite. And I'm not optimistic. Even if you have not a big campaign now, we'll push this through in the end of the year, and then we are lost, definitely lost, because we have a lot of different places we were talking this week about it.
Well, let me nevertheless invite you to be optimistic.
Yes,
if we see what happens now
Otherwise
in Germany
sit here.
with the AfD, we should be optimistic. Nobody expected such a rise of the opposition forces that are present in Germany after Merkel. The collapse of the political system which she held up is spectacular, and the rise of the AfD is spectacular. So I wish you all the best.
Yeah.
And the people that are going to vote for you, they are optimistic because they think you will be able to change.
And you will change.
If every member state would do so, like they do in Flanders, making Vlaams Belang by far the biggest party of the country, then of course, this is a madhouse. And of course, there are still too many Greens and too many socialists and too many communists that work together here to push these plans. But we are growing. And the uneasiness in the EPP, where the Merkel party sits, the uneasiness is bigger and bigger. And so someday we will be able to crush this. And anyhow, we have to crush it in the member states, but because we still have member states that are on the level of the Council, the European member states coming together, on the level of the Council, they are still powerful enough to block the system. Of course, the others want this system to be abolished. Member states could be put aside with a majority. That we are still not there. Hungary can still block decisions. So it is not too late, and if you go to the voters and ask them to vote for you, you haven't got the right to be pessimistic. Well, you have the obligation to be optimistic.
Yes,
Dear colleague, if I'm not...
sorry to interrupt, but
it's with a lot of friendship that I say that.
This survey is optimistic because it says that people are waking up. And that's exactly why we are here in this discussion, to get clarity on what's actually happening in Europe, that it is a European Commission with a parliament functioning as an applauding machine to get 50 million migrants in, regardless the wealth and prosperity, the income of the people who are living and working here and want to have a house and want to have a nice life. And they're making that very, very difficult. By migration, by all kind of rules, by making it impossible to do your job as a farmer, as a fisher, or whatever. So it's all from this centralized governing body here that it's getting more and more difficult for people, and people are waking up. And I think that's a very, very good message, because, as far as I know, there are still and you said we can't rescue the world, but there are still a lot of people on the outer borders of the EU who would love to get in, who would love to get here. And I think that you had a prognosis of like 1 million a year that would like to get in. We are now looking at Gaza. What I'm seeing is that Egypt, Jordania, Syria, Lebanon, they all want to close their borders for people who want to get out of the Gaza Strip. So why is that? Why aren't they being given shelter in the countries that are neighbors?
The reason is quite simple. But first of all, I'm optimistic, otherwise I wouldn't sit here and I would commit suicide. But I think the pressure is extremely high. And therefore, we have to make a campaign. But
I agree with that. Yeah.
I come back to this question. This is quite simple. Syria is an enemy. So they have already quite amount of people here south of Damascus from the Palestine, from the history. Jordania, they changed their society from the tribe society to a Palestine society because of their birth rate. We have Lebanon. Lebanon is close to collapse financially wise, and they collapsed already, corrupt. So Egypt have a big fear about this fundamentalism coming in. We were talking about the Muslim brothers before, and the same problems, the economic problems, the birth rates in Egypt. So all the countries around are not willing, and frankly spoken, my personal experience is Palestine people are not wanted from any Arab country. Nobody like them. It is, if you believe it or not. So where to go?
But the left in the EU, they do like them.
Yes, and
but
I know.
Not as a neighbor.
They get it, because in the end of the day, if we do not, the picture will go on. You saw what's happening on the battlefield, in the theater of war now, and there will be a huge pressure to the international community, what to do with maybe 200,000, 1 million Palestine people. So I'm sure Germany will raise their hand at first and will tell them, we take them all, or we take a lot, and Europe, von der Leyen will follow and say, we take the rest. So I'm sure that this is a big threat. But this is not the only threat we are facing in the landscape now. We have the problems, the Syrian people in Turkey. 3 million people, they have to leave Turkey, but they don't want to go back to Syria. They can, but they don't want. So the push is, and the way is, I think, very clear. We have Afghanistan. Half of the population, they are suffering of hunger, because during the time of our occupation, let's say Western occupation, they doubled the amount of people from 21 to 42 million people, and now the soil is the same. We are Pakistan pushed out now more than 1 million Afghan refugees. Where to go? We are facing in Sahel a lot of problems. Many people want to come to us. Northern Africa, young people, they are so a huge amount. So this is not just Gaza, it is a huge threat, and this huge threat we cannot solve with our mechanism. We need a fence, we need a defense of our borders. This is the only way to rescue Europe before they will die. That's the only solution. Big fence like our Eastern colleagues are doing already, and the proof that it is working.
And then we have a lot of people already here. We want a fence, and I think that's a good idea, because we have an organization called Frontex who should keep these people out, and it's not working. Then we have people here. We could, if they go through these procedures, which take years and years in the Netherlands, and finally they got rejected because they're not really refugees. They're just looking for the welfare state, for benefits, money, housing, whatever. So they should leave. Now in the UK, they have been talking about people of unknown country where they come from, that they could get refuge in Rwanda. That could, of course, be something to think about, but we don't want to let it get that far, isn't it, Gerolf?
Well,
What's the basic? What are the first steps? What's the basic thing?
well, first
basic
of all,
thing to do?
the UK made a good decision to leave this European Union so that this influence is cut off. So they are trying, apparently, to find their own solution to the migration issue. We have no relations, or not the nice or the good relations with Rwanda. I don't think for the moment their system is working. So what we propose is that nobody gets asylum unless he asks for asylum abroad, out of the borders, at the external borders, max the external borders of the European Union, not coming in, not getting them in and then asking for asylum like they do now. And even if their asylum is refused, they stay, like the Brussels terrorists of beginning of this week. We get murderers in. Then we refuse them asylum, but we refuse, and our governments refuse to get them out. They are in the impossibility to get them out, so to say. So it is better to keep them out and only let them in if their asylum is honestly acceptable. And we would redesign the Geneva Convention, because it is designed on the basis of the German, Eastern German people that came to Western Germany after the Second World War. It's an abused system, and it's mentally and morally dead, the Convention of Geneva. It should be replaced by a modern way of accepting asylum in very, very tiny issues where people with European cultural background could be accepted here, and all the others kept out or brought elsewhere in their cultural environment. But we only accept people that have the background of a Christian European background, culturally spoken. And so we get in our system, we have to design an asylum system that is not abusable anymore. Like now, it's a disaster. What we have seen in Brussels is the Lampedusa disaster in the streets of Brussels, and that is a scandal as such.
So what we're basically seeing is that we have now a failing system, which is giving an enormous burden on our member states, and there are workable solutions, because like the solution that Gerolf is talking about is, of course, like applying for a green card in the US of A. You're doing that from abroad. You're not already in the US of A, and then you get this green card. It is from abroad. There you are being judged whether or not you could be let in or not. So it's a system that really could work. So we have the alternatives. We have the solutions. We now need the votes of our people. And I think that's the thing that you were pressing. That's the thing that you were, saying that at least people are waking up. So it's an appeal to all our viewers to take the right decision. Thank you very much, gentlemen.